Some airplanes catch your attention because they're fast, others because they're famous. And then there are airplanes that stop you in your tracks simply because they look like they belong in another era. I went to a small fly-in breakfast recently expecting to see a few familiar airplanes. Instead, I found myself standing in front of one of the most elegant aircraft ever built, a 1939 Stinson Reliant SR-9C. Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger. I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. One of the things I enjoy most about living near a small airport is that you never quite know what might show up. Recently, I drove over to the annual fly-in breakfast at Royalton Airport, only a few minutes from my house. There were probably around 10 airplanes parked on the grass, a few Cessna 172s, a beautiful yellow J3 Cub, the Niagara County Sheriff's helicopter sitting on a portable display platform, and a 1943 Boeing Stearman that I've watched flying over my neighborhood many times. It was exactly the kind of relaxed Sunday morning that keeps small airports alive. But as I walked between the hangars towards the tarmac, something immediately caught my eye. Those wings. Even from a distance, there's no mistaking them. A Stinson Reliant. Now, if you've never seen one in person, pictures don't quite prepare you for it. The airplane almost seems oversized, with its tall landing gear, deep cabin, and unmistakable gull-wing that curves gracefully downward before sweeping back up towards the tips. It's one of those airplanes that almost makes you stop walking. The Reliant was built by the Stinson Aircraft Corporation, founded by aviation pioneer Eddie Stinson. During the late 1930s, it represented the company's idea of luxury personal transportation. Think of it as an executive limousine of the skies. Beginning with the earlier SR-7 models, Stinson abandoned the conventional straight wing in favor of that dramatic gull-wing design. It wasn't simply for appearance. The shape improved visibility from the cabin, while creating one of the most recognizable silhouettes in aviation history. And that beautiful rounded windshield, streamlined engine cowling, and Art Deco styling that defined the late 1930s, and you have an airplane that's just as much industrial artwork as it is transportation. It's surprisingly large, too. Climbing aboard isn't exactly graceful. The cabin sits high enough that most owners carry a small onboard step. But once inside, passengers were treated to something remarkably luxurious for the era. Comfortable upholstered seats, generous soundproofing, roll-down windows, and an interior that felt more like a premium automobile than an airplane. Power came from a 260 horsepower Lycoming radial engine, producing that unmistakable rhythmic sound that every radial engine enthusiast loves. Starting one, however, is almost a ceremony. Prime the engine, switch on the magnetos, press what looks suspiciously like an old automobile headlight dimmer mounted on the floor, and, with a little luck, the big radial engine comes to life. Taxiing requires a bit of patience as well. The Reliant's large nose blocks much of the forward view, so pilots weave gently back and forth using S-turns just to see what's ahead. Combined with its freely swiveling tail wheel, crosswinds can make the airplane eager to weathercock in the wind. Fortunately, once airborne, owners consistently describe the airplane as stable, comfortable, and wonderfully smooth. Landing, however, demands a little planning. Despite those generous wings, the Reliant doesn't glide particularly well with the engine at idle. It comes down much more eagerly than its appearance suggests, which means pilots need to stay ahead of the airplane throughout the approach. Even more so, Its stall characteristics are gentle, making it remarkably forgiving when flown properly. Standing beside the airplane this morning, though, what interests me most wasn't its flying qualities. It was its history. The information card displayed next to the aircraft told an incredible story. This particular SR-9C left the Stinson factory on February 13, 1939, and may have been the very last SR-9C ever built. Its first owner was industrialist Frederick A. Luthi, who reportedly purchased the airplane for $10,000, paid entirely in $1 bills stuffed inside a satchel. According to the display, it took the Stinson employees all afternoon just to count the money. Not long afterward, the airplane found its way to Buffalo Pharmaceutical Company here in western New York, where it served as the company's corporate aircraft. Then World War II arrived. Rather than sitting idle, this elegant executive transport was transferred to the Defense Plant Corporation and assigned to the Civil Air Patrol operations along the Atlantic coast. According to the aircraft's history card, depth charges were actually mounted beneath this airplane for anti-submarine patrols. That's quite a transformation for an airplane originally designed to carry businessmen in comfort. After the war, it eventually returned to Buffalo Pharmaceutical before later serving with the Erie County Sheriff's Department, remaining right here in western New York. Eventually, it passed through several owners around the country before being rescued from derelict condition in Florida by Stephen Pitcairn, whose family name will sound familiar to anyone interested in autogyros and early aviation history. Finally, in 2004, the airplane returned home once again when its current owner, Mark Scheffler, brought it back to western New York. And that's where I happened to find it this morning. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to meet the owner because he was preparing to leave while I was talking with the owner of the Stearman. But that's one of the nice things about supporting small local fly-ins. You never know who you'll meet, what stories you'll hear, or what rare airplanes quietly taxi onto the field while everyone else is finishing breakfast. Events like this remind me why small airports matter. They're often the first place young people discover aviation, the place where pilots gather simply because they enjoy flying, and sometimes the only opportunity you'll ever have to stand a few feet away from an airplane that survived nearly 90 years of history. And occasionally, you get lucky enough to see a flying piece of Art Deco arrive under its own power. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.